Chapter 1. Some of my earliest memories are of my dad and his loud-mouthed, dirty joke-telling friends gathered around a wobbly, makeshift poker table. They puffed on large cigars that, judging from the smell, could only have been made with donkey dung. I opted for a blue bubblegum cigar. It had all of the flash with none of the stench. I didn't want pink cigars. Those were for girls, and I wasn't a girl. I was a poker player. My mother insisted they edit their language and jokes around me, which they did quite colorfully. Jokes became coded with her maracas, his beef stick, and doing the Humpty Dumpty dance. It didn't take a genius to break those codes. I found my niche at an early age. By the time I was a teenager, none of my dad's friends would play Texas Hold'em with me. They would make me sit out until they switched to Omaha or Stud. By then, I had kicked the bubblegum cigar habit and got hooked on something much more sinister, pretzel rods. While my friends talked about boys and clothes, I talked about Doyle Brunson and odds. My name is Nadia Wolf, and I'm a professional poker player. But on some days that's debatable. I'm 28 years old. I wouldn't say there's anything remarkable about me, but I've been told I'm not terribly hard on the eyes. I'm 5'6". My hair is long, brown, and infused with copper highlights. I like my green eyes the best. My dad jokes that my eye color must have come from the neighbor across the street with the sun-tanned skin and game show host smile. Mom stays tight-lipped when the subject comes up, but I think that's because it's an old and tired joke. She lost her sense of humor when MacGyver went off the air. Poker is still a man's game, but plenty of women have infiltrated and can rival any man at the table. I moved to Las Vegas a few years ago and have been earning enough money working the tables to scrape by. It's been a slow journey, and the life of high stakes still eludes me. Itching to further my poker career, I entered a tournament for which I had to scrimp and save. If I'd had anything worthy of selling, I would have sold it in a heartbeat. The World Poker Tournament is an event every serious poker player dreams of winning. The $1 million prize is worth the risk. A manly diamond bracelet is also awarded to the winner. The prestige of winning the bracelet is similar to that of a gold medal for an Olympian, at least in the poker world. The buy-in cost had been $10,000, and I was in my first day of the tournament and nearly on my last chip. My brain and checkbook were in agony as I narrowed my eyes at the man sitting across the table. He met my gaze and held it. His blue eyes were as unreadable as they normally were. My pulse jumped. His lips curled to reveal his straight white teeth.
"Raise,"
he said, shoving $5,000 worth of chips to the middle of the table as smoothly as his voice had called it. Damn it. I'd been tangled in hands with Caleb Usher a few times before, and I'd never escaped unscathed. Of all the tables in this damn poker tournament, how did I get stuck with him? I fingered the corners of my 2 playing cards laying face down on the table and inspected my tiny stack of chips. If I called, it would be an all-in bet. I had a pair of queens, but it wasn't enough for me to go all in. The risk would be too high. My $10,000 buy-in could be gone the second he turned over his cards. I have a gambler spirit like the rest of the players in the tournament, but I couldn't rely on just luck. There were too many possible outs. Caleb could make a straight or flush, and my pair of queens would be garbage, and he's well known for his unbeatable luck. My personal theory is that he has secret leprechaun DNA. I nearly smirked at the thought, but I had to stay in control of my facial movements. Any small twitch or tick could be considered a tell. An uncontrolled tell is the death of a poker player. The rest of the players gazed at the table in boredom, having been sitting hour after long hour in the same spot. Their hands were busy, mindlessly shuffling their stacks of chips, waiting for the next round. I ignored the continuous clicking sound their shuffling produced. My eyes cut back to Caleb. He sat perfectly still, his eyes bored into me. Anyone else would have looked down or hid behind their sunglasses. Caleb was serious, and that wasn't his nature. He gave me the tell I needed. He wasn't toying with me the way he normally did. Throwing my hand to the dealer, I flashed a courtesy smile at Caleb. I'm out, I said, with only a hint of defeat that began bubbling up from my last round. The dealer shoved the pot of chips over to Caleb and swiped the cards from the table. It was the last hand of the evening. Even with the setback, I had survived the first day of the tournament. I grimaced at my few remaining chips and sighed. Tomorrow was going to either be an extremely short day or a monumental uphill battle. I'd have to go all in to grow my stack. But going all in is a one-shot play. A redhead with long legs and a plunging neckline that showed off her ample cleavage bent over to give Caleb a long, slow kiss. Her skirt hitched up, causing the remaining men at the table to blink out of their stupor.
Sugar pie, can we go now? I'm bored. And the camera crew is on the other side of the room. They didn't get one shot of me today.
He smiled at her.
Yeah, let me just turn in my stack.
I busied myself and gathered my belongings. I stretched as I stood from the table and let out an appreciative sigh. It felt fantastic after hours parked at the poker table.
Nadia.
I glanced up and caught a chip tossed at me before it breezed by my ear. Caleb smirked.
See you tomorrow.
I hope not, I said, and I meant it. With him at my table, I was sure to lose. Winning against Caleb is like winning an art contest when all you know how to draw is a stick figure. The odds were grim at best. I gathered my bag and made my way out of the tournament room. I trekked through the casino, dodging slot enthusiasts along the way. As I turned past the Let It Ride tables, I caught sight of a familiar figure playing at a blackjack table. I veered to get closer to him. "Hey, Roy," I said. Roy turned to me with a wink and a half-cocked smile.
You done already?
I made it through the day, but I'm seriously short-stacked. I don't know how far I'll make it tomorrow.
You'll do fine, kid.
Roy smiled. Tossing his cards down, he dropped a chip on the table for the dealer and pocketed the rest.
Let's go. I'll buy dinner, but if you win the tournament, you owe me 10 dinners.
I chuckled. Deal. I'd met Roy Schofield when I first moved to Las Vegas and lost miserably to a card shark. He'd detected what had happened and stepped in before I made a mess of things. He's at least 30 years older than I am and has the attitude of a 1970s pit boss. He's rough around the edges, but there's a soft, squishy center in him that he denies. My attempts to retire his gold-plated pinky ring and hubcap-sized belt buckle have failed. He's old-school Vegas through and through. Roy's been my mentor and friend. He taught me the ropes and gave me the lay of the land. Without him, I think I would have packed up long ago and moved back home. Sometimes, after days like today, I still think I should.
I saw Caleb at your table.
Roy said as he knifed and sawed at his leathery steak. He nearly knocked me out on the last hand, but he gave me a tell, so I folded. Roy eyed me as he chewed on a bite.
Caleb doesn't give tells.
I know. Here's the thing about professional poker players. They're tricky. They like to make moves that will throw you off guard or that make you think you understand their playing style when actually it's all for show. You can't make a living off poker if you're skating by on luck. Sure, there's a lot of luck involved, but a player with experience in the game and an intuition about people will always have an advantage over pure luck. If you're an expert bullshitter and enjoy messing with people's heads, you'll go even further. If you sit at the poker tables long enough, you begin to pick out the professionals and recognize them. A few are followed by fans and have games that are televised. Caleb is one of them. He moves in different circles than I do, but we've been snarled in enough hands together to make the singe of each time I've been burnt by his unbeatable playing style that much more painful. I poked at my wilted salad. Why did I order a salad? After a day of bad beats and horrible cards, I was ravenous. "Cindy," I called to the waitress, "can I get a burger and onion rings?"
You need to be careful. Caleb can mess with a person's head. Next time he gives you a tell, it might not be a tell, but a bluff.
I parked my clunker car in the parking lot of All Celebrities Chapel, where I live in a small apartment on the 3rd floor. Frankie Garza is the owner and celebrity impersonator who presides over the weddings. He lives on the 2nd floor. The chapel is in an old brick building that Frankie converted. He painted the outside bricks white and stenciled on gold bells that frame a mural of celebrities' caricatures. Softball-size marquee lights surround the mural and flash a rhythm through the night. Most of the caricatures are unrecognizable. They're mainly blob shapes with a few key features, and they all have large breasts. Even the men. Frankie said the deformed caricatures were so that celebrities wouldn't sue him by painting their likeness. But I think it's because he gave the job to his no-talent cousin, who has a fondness for painting large breasts. Either way, I don't think Elvis will be suing All Celebrities Chapel anytime soon, even if he is painted with uneven pork chops and floppy breasts. As soon as I opened the chapel door, a smile grew on my face. When Frankie named the chapel All Celebrities Chapel, he meant it. He rotates through his usual Vegas stars like Elvis, Dolly Parton, and Frank Sinatra, but he loves to add new entertainers to his lineup. Tonight he was dressed as Kermit the Frog. Lily pads paved the way down the aisle to the altar, where a rainbow made of tissue paper was propped behind him. "You're very green," I said as I surveyed his bulging, froggy eyes.
I'm a frog. I'm supposed to be green.
He turned and posed for me. His flipper feet smacked at the ground.
Do you think everyone will recognize that I'm Kermit?
Since I have to introduce you as Kermit, I'm sure they will. You could rent a pig. We could squeeze her into a dress and a blonde wig and name her Miss Piggy. She can keep you company at the altar. Maybe even oink her 2 cents worth. He narrowed his froggy eyes at me.
I could dress you up as Miss Piggy.
I gulped. I wouldn't put it past Frankie to dress me up one step beyond humiliation. I think Kermit is a solo kind of frog. We wouldn't want Miss Piggy wallowing in the same swamp, would we? He smirked.
That's what I thought.
I rarely see Frankie out of costume. When he does finally shed his fictitious layers, he's a handsome man. He has a thin trail of Hispanic blood, which gives him his dark eyes and hair. He's a couple inches taller than I am, and looks better in a dress than I do. "Do you have a full night?" I asked.
No, but you know how it gets later.
I knew all too well. After too many drinks, vacationers who had found love merely minutes before would flock to the chapel to tie the knot. It's on the following day, when the hangover and sobriety had cleared the drunken fog, that they would discover a souvenir marriage certificate and photo, and plastic vending machine rings. Tonight, their photo would include Kermit. A smile escaped to my lips. In exchange for my low rent, I helped Frankie out a couple of nights a week, assisting the happy couples with the paperwork and snapping souvenir photos. Even though I know most of the couples wake the next morning to regret their actions, I get a little jealous. For one night, they are the happiest, albeit drunkest, 2 people in the world. But tonight, I'm pretty sure I can keep my jealousy in check. I don't think I would want my souvenir photo with Kermit. That's like kicking a man when he's down. I won't be stepping down Kermit's matrimonial aisle anytime soon. My love life is non-existent. Well, maybe that's not quite true. I did go on a blind date a couple of weeks ago. It was set up through a poker friend who had told me the guy was funny. He's not funny unless you like an offbeat comedian who thinks slapstick during dinner is the way to win a girl's heart. By the end of the meal, I was wearing my food, and the restaurant manager issued a lifetime ban on us from ever returning to the restaurant. It's too bad. I loved their chocolate cake. Never trust a poker friend that you'd previously wiped out at the table. "Frankie, call me when you need me. I'm going upstairs."
But you haven't told me about the tournament yet.
I made it through the first day, even though I was stuck at a table with Caleb Usher. Frankie gasped.
You made it through?
"Yes, but I have a feeling I'll have to play him again," I said. I had an uneasy feeling that even though it's against regulations for Caleb to request certain tables, he's known for getting what he wants. Right now, it seems he wants to toy with me. Who am I kidding? Why would he care about one insignificant poker player? Caleb messing with me was most likely wishful thinking from my lack of earth-shattering sex. Not that I can say I've ever had earth-shattering sex. Have I? Frankie knew about my battles with Caleb. I lost everyone. In the poker world, he's my enemy. A very handsome enemy. He has phenomenal talent and luck, which complements his ego. The televised poker tours and high stakes shows love him because he captures attention and draws people in. Some of the other televised professionals try to use cheap gimmicks and over-emotional rants to gain spotlight time. Caleb is just himself. He is what every aspiring amateur and pro wants to be. Cool, confident, and rich. Even I like to watch him play, but I wouldn't admit that to anyone. I trudged up the back staircase and let myself into my apartment. My cat Gus was sprawled on the couch. He's always on the couch. It's one of the few places he can climb. When I adopted him from a shelter a year ago, he was the size of a pot-bellied pig, and still is. His stubby legs make him a lowrider, and his watermelon belly barely clears the floor. I'd bought a doggy staircase for him to access the couch and another one for my bed. "Did you miss me?" Gus didn't raise his head, but he cracked open one of his blue eyes and then shut it. Nice to know I'm loved. I gave him a scratch behind his ear. His fur was mainly gray with a few patches of darker fur. I'm sure he thinks he's quite the distinguished cat because he acts as if he's in charge. "What? I don't even get a purr out of you? The vet told me to put you on a diet at the last visit. And the visit before that. Don't think I've forgotten you ate my sandwich yesterday." Gus gave half of a grunt. "Can't even grunt a full one, huh? I guess I should put you on a diet." I took a shower and dressed for my shift at the chapel. Frankie had issued me a uniform when I first began working for him. A form-fitting white faux leather miniskirt, bustier top, and go-go boots. I've learned to live with it. My pride doesn't get in the way of cheap rent. There isn't a whole lot of breathing room left once I squeeze myself into it. The nice part is that it creates the illusion of giant boobs. Too bad it's just that, an illusion. I swiped on some mascara and picked out cherry red for my lips. At least my lips could have a little color. My skin tends to bleach out when I wear white, making me look something like a vampire. On second thought, maybe the cherry red would resemble blood. I blotted off the lipstick, not wanting to scare the customers in their drunken state. Frankie was poised and ready for the steady flow of couples. Bernie and Vivian were in the chapel, too. They're residents of a retirement home located a couple of blocks away. They come in every night to volunteer as witnesses and to watch some free entertainment. Sometimes they bring their retired neighbors to watch as well. Since it's late at night, we never have a flood of seniors. But I always know when it's been chilly night at the retirement home because a handful of seniors, armed with pocketfuls of antacids, join the party. Tonight, Bernie and Vivian were dressed in green. "Welcome to All Celebrities Chapel," I said to the first couple who stumbled in. "Kermit is presiding over the ceremonies tonight." A platinum blonde in her early 20s balanced a man against her to support his inebriated weight. His head was slumped over and drool dripped from the side of his mouth.
"We want to get married."
I scrutinized the man who wasn't focusing well, or even breathing well. "Sir, are you here to get married?" I asked.
"I told you we're here to get married."
"I know what you said, but I want to know what he says." Normally, I wouldn't argue with a bride, but the man was hanging on to consciousness by a thread. I didn't think he was going to make it up the aisle. And Frankie hates it when they throw up on his decorations. Or him.
"Baby Pooh, tell her we want to get married."
The man stared at her with a vacant expression. Perhaps you and Baby Pooh should come back when he's coherent," I told the blonde.
"No, I bought him drink after drink, so he'd agree to come here. I'm not leaving until we're married."
"Do you have a marriage license, or do you still need one?"
"I have one in my purse."
"Can he at least say, 'I do'?" She told him to say it, but he didn't. She scolded him to say it, but he wiped the drool on her shirt instead. She grabbed his jaw and moved his lips while she muttered, "I do," under her breath. "Nope, that won't cut it," I said. "You're welcome to stay in the waiting room until he can say the magic words." The blonde huffed and strong-armed the man to the waiting room. I'm seriously thinking about writing a guide titled Dragging Your Drunk Man to Your Las Vegas Wedding. Number 1. Get your man happy drunk, and maybe a little stupid drunk, but not incoherent drunk. I'm sure there's a mathematical equation to determine how much booze it would take. As I contemplated my book, a couple stumbled in with Lenny trailing behind them. Their bodies swayed like they were on a boat in a bad storm. I grabbed the woman's arm to keep her from falling.
Can we get?
The woman stared at me, lost in her drunken fog. Married? I tried to fill in the blank.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
She smiled as her eyes crossed. I shrugged. At least she could speak. Lenny handed me their marriage license.
There aren't too many couples right now.
He scratched his mustache. His rounded belly stretched his tuxedo t-shirt to its maximum elastic capabilities.
I'll take the bus for a spin and see who I can round up.
Frankie had hired Lenny to drive customers between the chapel and the marriage bureau to obtain their marriage licenses. He would sometimes pick up stray couples who were inebriated and open to exploring the benefits of marriage. The bureau's late hours allowed the chapel to remain open and hopping with love. Since he's paid on commission, I wondered about his roundups. Only pick up couples who want to get married, I warned.
The love bus picks up all those who want to ride. Did you see the neon lights I added? The girls are loving it.
He smirked and rubbed his hands together like a tubby praying mantis. The love bus, as Lenny likes to refer to it, is a retired school bus painted white with a mural of busty celebrities on the side. Lenny has been slowly making modifications to the interior, hoping to lure more paychecks onto the bus and down the aisle.
I'm heading back to the bureau. I need to get there before those damn fairy tale yahoos do.
Lenny fluttered his hands like little wings and rolled his eyes.
Oh, look at me. I'm a fairy and will take you to Fairy Tale Chapel.
Yes, but their Prince Charming is rather nice to look at. They keep him in those snug tights, I said. I bet they get business from women following him to the chapel in hopes of marrying him. Lenny gave a sound of disgruntled disgust and stomped out the door. Smiling at Lenny's exit, I turned to help the couple. I filled in the form with their personal information and then had them sign it. The woman signed with enormous loops, laughing as the loops carried off the page and onto the counter. I don't judge signatures. I just go with the flow, even if it's loopy. I showed them to the chapel and switched on the Rainbow Connection for them to stroll arm in arm down the aisle to. Well, almost arm in arm. The woman stumbled and fell, but she hooked her arm around the man's leg and he unknowingly dragged her the rest of the way down the aisle. Oversized lily pads trailed behind her until the couple came to a halt at the altar. Frankie tossed a casual glance down to see if the woman was still conscious. She smiled up at him and giggled, but otherwise remained sprawled on the ground to repeat her vows. I suppressed a snicker when Frankie began the ceremony.
Kermit the Frog here.
Frankie stayed in character the whole time. He always impresses me with how many celebrities he can impersonate. Occasionally, I wonder, with all his different impersonations day after day, does he sometimes forget who he is? The man dropped to the floor to kiss the woman as Frankie pronounced them husband and wife. The man only held the kiss for a moment until he toppled over. I switched the music back on, flipped on the bubble machine, and snapped their picture. The bride and groom were passed out on the ground with a giant Kermit looming over them. Vivian and Bernie clapped for the newly married couple. Can it get any more romantic?